And here we are again. Era Stories Management. Another big production by NADIA, SHAHRIK, and Mohammed. And we've been on now every week, and we're trying to bring different celebrities and different models from the golden age of modeling, which was the 80s through the 90s, or part of the 90s, but late 70s, all through the 80s were the time when we called it the golden era, where bookers and managers were managers and models were models. And there was a lot of money to be made, and there were a lot of young people who really rose to the top. And today we have the most fabulous Marpessa. Marpessa, excuse me, Marpessa. I knew I was going to get this name wrong. Marpessa, who is from that era, I believe started in the 80s, and I would love to introduce her as one of the golden girls, one of the standouts of that era. And say hi. If Marpessa, are you with us? Oh, there you are,
All right.
man. Do you look
Yeah.
fabulous? Do you
Hello.
realize I haven't seen you since the 80s or the
Well, let's
90s?
say the early
Well,
90s.
the early 90s. And that's a long time ago. Man, you
That's
still
a
look
long
beautiful.
time ago.
You know,
I didn't even have kids back then.
you didn't have kids, neither did I. We were late bloomers.
Well, those are the best ones, right?
We had our children when we were older, you know. We
Better.
got smart. We lived our life, our youth. We had a great time. And tell me, tell me a little about yourself before modeling. Let's start you as a young lady and how you
Okay.
got into this business.
Well, I was in school, in middle school, I guess. No, high school already. And I wasn't really interested in studying. I was interested in fashion. I had discovered this really cute coffee shop with like the cutest guys, only guys. Had no idea they were gay,
And
but they were all
where was
cute.
this? Where was
In
this?
Amsterdam. In
In
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Amsterdam. And, Amsterdam was very liberal and very free. And so one of the days that I skipped school, I bicycled through the city and found it was a beautiful day. The terraces were out, and there was this whole gang of gorgeous boys and men sitting outside. They were all laughing and all cheery, and I was like, oh, let me go and have a little tea there. And I became friends, and a couple of weeks later, the owner came to me and was like, Marpessa, you do realize we are all gay, right? I'm like, so?
That's right. So it
So
didn't matter in those days.
it didn't matter. And one of the clients that came there all the time was a famous hairdresser in Amsterdam. His name was Boy Groenteman. And he was like, "What are you doing here all the time? If you're skipping school, come
Yeah.
into my shop, and I'll teach you a craft. And maybe you should do modeling because you're gorgeous." And it sort of started there.
And that's how it all
That's
started, right?
how it all
Back in
started.
the Netherlands. And then when did you come to the United States?
The first time was actually on a direct booking from Paris in 82.
All right. So you were working in
83.
Paris
I
for,
did, I didn't I didn't have an agent in New York yet.
all right. So you
Uh,
were working in Paris
yeah,
first,
yeah.
and Milano, or just Paris?
Milan and Paris. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
then you came to the United
Then I
States, and who was your first agent?
and my first agent there was Zoli.
Ah, so
And
Totally.
slowly, I mean, already as a kid, I was obsessed with models. My dad, he was, my parents were divorced, so my dad was living in LA at the time. And he's sort of a Renaissance man. He's an illustrator, publicist,
You name it.
you name it. And he would send me, fashion magazines. And so I became obsessed with, like, the Pat Clevelands, Janice Dickinson, those Iman. I mean, these women, they looked so gorgeous and alien. And, I always was interested in making my own clothing. Never thought I would be able to become a model. But seeing these girls, I was like, maybe. And then with the support of the boys in Amsterdam,
So
yeah. So I came
you're,
to New York for this booking through Paris, and I went to see Zoli, who was a legend.
he was.
He was a legend. He had all the best girls, like Apollonia, like, all the cool
He was
chicks.
very
Very,
innovative.
very innovative. But unfortunately, and he introduced me to Antonio Lopez.
Exactly.
And Antonio, he really, really, really helped me a lot. He was really my Pygmalion. He told me to go to Paris, go back to Paris. You have to meet Karl Lagerfeld. You have to meet Azzedine Alaïa, and that's when I did my first threads into runway. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, when you did the runway, you brought sex back onto the runway. I mean, before you, uh, I used to look at runway girls as sort of, asexual, they just wore the clothes looked great, but they
Mm,
didn't bring their personality. And you brought this beautiful sexuality
mm,
to the runway. And you were
yeah.
one of the first ones. I used to think you were flirting all the time with me, but you really weren't. But you didn't really know who the hell I was. But but you made everybody feel, oh my God, she's available. Look at the way she's flirting with us. Oh my God, and all that stuff. But it seems that was never the case. But I think you were one of the only runway girls
Mm,
who continued doing the runway while they started booking models who were in the ads. So
yeah,
you were working with a lot of the kids who were in the ads, or a lot of models who were in the ads,
yeah,
and you were still working on the
yeah,
runway.
yeah,
Whereas a lot of the runway girls had fallen along the wayside, except for, people like Pat Cleveland and uh, ladies like that.
yeah.
But you kept on going, and I tell you, you were exciting to watch,
Mm.
you know? And
Well, that's
so,
really due to especially Carl, I think. I mean, what I think actually, Joey, is that when I started, there were two distinct groups of models. You had the print models and you had
correct,
the runway models.
correct.
And I remember the first 2 years that I, tried to do, I really wanted to do runway, obviously, because I wanted to come in contact with the designers. To me, it was not so much about, getting covers or making bucket loads of money doing commercial jobs. I wanted to know the designers because I was so obsessed with the
Yes.
designers. But the first 2 years of working, I did castings, but I didn't know how to walk. And also, there was still the runway girls who,
Sure.
they did have a bit of personality, but their thing was to show the
Right.
garment in the most perfect way. And I remember Valentino. You would go out in a group of 3 or 4, and you had to unbutton the jacket at the same time, take off the gloves at the same time. It was a craft. It was a craft, and it takes a few seasons before you get it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so, it took me some time, but Carl, he was like, I don't want you to walk like, a mannequin. I want to have your personality, like you come into the studio and, walk like you walk in the street or going to a disco or, get inspired by my clothes, get inspired by the music. And that's how I slowly, I guess, developed my my walk, and
That's why you had such longevity in the business, because there were special agencies that represented just those girls for the runway or for the showroom. But
yeah,
you went to a mainstream agency like Zoli, and
yeah,
all of a sudden you were trust on the runway, and
mm,
you were there because of your personality
yeah,
and the way you showed the clothing. The design is working with designers is much more personal than doing a Revlon ad or a L'Oreal ad.
yeah, yeah,
You get to work with them in the studio, in the salon. You get to feel the clothes, the material. A lot of them try it on you and will call you in and say, "Can you come up, stop in, because I want to see how this looks."
yeah.
And so
Oh, I would spend 24 hours with Carl and with Azzedine, and fittings would go on until the wee hours.
so you were one of the only ones that I remember that did a lot of shows. Worked
Hmm.
in Paris, worked in Milan, worked in London, worked for all the designers in all those different markets.
And New
And
York, I mean, working with
oh yeah,
Calvin
New
and
York,
Oscar,
of course, of course.
Fernando
Yes.
Sanchez. I mean, those guys
So
were legends. So for me to be in their
in their
proximity,
company,
yeah,
right, or in their studio.
in their studio was just like, yeah,
Because
there's,
I remember Calvin used to love to have the girls
yeah,
come into the studio
yeah,
and during the week, way before the shows,
yeah,
just to try things on
yeah,
and look at them and see the way they would look
yeah,
when they would show
yeah,
them come 2, 3 months from now.
yeah.
And there was a camaraderie amongst the models and the
Yeah.
designers, which you don't have today. I mean,
That's
I
yeah.
remember.
I don't get the feeling they do, and yes, yes, now it's. I mean, I see my daughter. She's 19 and she tried modeling a bit last year and during her gap year, and things have seemed to have changed so much. Now the agencies, they want to wait to launch the girl with doing one big show
Right.
where they don't have experience in posing, they don't have experience in walking, they don't have experience in feeling comfortable in the outfit they're wearing. So that to me is like, it's so alien. It's such an alien concept. And yeah, I think our time was better when it took some years to learn your craft and to get comfortable in your skin.
Not only to learn your craft, but
Mm,
the personal aspect of it.
mm,
Because I remember going up to Azzedine's studio
mm,
and spending a half a day there. And during that half a day, so many models would walk in
yeah,
to say hello. And he would say, "Oh, I'm thinking about you. Put this on you."
yeah,
Uh, and it went back and forth. And
yeah,
there was, which we don't have anymore.
yeah. Isn't that a shame? Don't you
Yeah.
think?
It,
Yeah,
it is a
I'm,
shame.
I'm wondering, don't you think that is going to come back though? Don't you think people are a bit tired? I mean, even designers, I hear that, they're nostalgic, especially and sort of get so inspired when they hear our stories and like, oh, we want to go back to that. Why can't we have that today?
Well,
I mean,
my take on it is that designers created monsters and models.
mm,
They play them up to be holier than
mm,
God. And
mm,
they gave them so much money to do their
mm,
shows.
mm,
And they created that aura of a supermodel. And
mm.
they also then wanted exclusivities. If you're going to do my show, I don't want you to do their show.
But
And
that's
so I'm going to buy
the
you
same
out
now. It's
from
the
all
same
the
now
shows.
with young girls, 15, 16, and the casting director says, "Okay, I want an option on her, but she has to be exclusive, and
Uh,
nobody else can see her." And
but in those days, they paid a lot of money for the exclusivity. And I don't think they're paying that kind of money these days. And which brings me back, I don't think the designers want to create those type of girls that are going to demand so much money from
mm,
them. where they were the ones that made the girls. I mean, because you'd see them in the
Yeah.
shows and you want to book them and you want them to work for you. And that was the whole way it worked, you know. And these days, it doesn't seem that way. It seems what is the cheapest price we can get, you know, and the most for it. No?
I'm not really sure about that because I mean, back in in my time, maybe there were 25 girls booked or 30 girls booked, but we would do two, three, four, five looks. I would do five, six looks in one
Yeah.
show.
One show.
Now they have to take 80 or 90 models because they only do one look.
Yeah. I see.
And they
Yeah.
just walk like boom, 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 sort of like,
Oh, blank expressions.
you know,
Blank.
don't give, I mean, they walk the same way for Valentino as they walk for Gucci or for, I don't know, Calvin Klein, I mean, whereas, our generation, we would interpret the mood of every designer and every garment even. I mean, you would change personality. You would be like a silent actress, with different personalities in one show.
Well, you girls, as I say, brought
Plus the shows now,
sexiness.
because the production of the shows now
Yeah,
costs millions.
to
So
do
of
it
course there's no money left for
for the
models.
money. But you guys brought sensuality back to the
Mm,
runway.
mm,
You made it. Now all these girls look like boys. I mean,
mm.
there's no. They're not sexy. They don't. There's no
But they don't want
personality
that.
coming through.
This started with grunge, Joey. That's when I
Yeah,
stopped. That's when I quit in 93, 94. When the whole grunge thing came in, I was like, I wanted to become a model to be glamorous, to be chic, to be divine, to be sexy. Not to be looking like, a half-assed junkie from Seattle.
I agree. I agree. So after Zoli, where did you go? Did
Well,
you?
Zoli, unfortunately, it didn't last very long because he passed away. And,
Right.
we didn't know it was AIDS, but apparently,
But that's what
he
it
actually
was.
was one of the
He
first
was one of
victims
the
of,
first.
of
Yes,
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that.
So I went back to, Antonio said, let me call John Casablancas, and, and so I went to Elite, to model management, and but New York really has never been a big market for me. I guess I was, a little bit too exotic, as they would call it, you know.
You were
So no,
excited.
I worked much more in Paris and Milan, of course. Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. Back in those days, if you had dark hair and sort of an olive skin,
Mm,
you were exotic.
yeah. Yeah, I remember going on castings for for commercial jobs or things like that, and you would have to fill out a form actually, where your name, the color of your eyes, blah blah, and then it was which ethnicity are you, and it was like Caucasian, Latin, uh, Afro American, and I would always do like all of the
All
above,
of you know.
which got people even more confused. Yeah.
Well, then
I
you
don't think
wound
that
up.
exists anymore. I hope it doesn't.
Well, I think now with this diversity stuff,
Yeah.
anything goes, anybody goes. I was just reading where the model of the year in London is
Oh,
the first transgender
yeah,
model ever picked to be the model of the year
yeah,
uh, during the London shows or
yeah.
wherever they have their awards. Um, so it's really diverse now,
Mm,
not like it used to be where, if a girl had dark hair, dark skin, she was exotic. If
mm,
she was a mixture of black and white and Dutch and,
yeah,
the islands, the West Indies,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was an exotic looking
yeah.
woman, rather than what they are now.
Yeah.
Now it's like a spade is called a spade. If you're white, you're white. If you're black, you're black. If you're mixed, you're this
It's
type of
those
person.
it's those
It's
horrible boxes. They still exist, and people still want to fit in some sort, now in the diversity box. I mean,
and
now it's. But the other thing is, So there was a period where, yes, the Caucasian models, they were making the most money
Right.
and all that. But I remember as a kid, especially with the shows. I mean, I remember the Battle of Versailles. I must have been like 12 or something. The Battle of Versailles, when the American designers brought their models to
Right.
Paris, and like all the designers, even like Saint Laurent, I mean, they all had black models and
A lot
Caribbean
of
and
black models.
Indian. There was so much diversity then,
Yes.
and people sort of seem to have forgotten about that. It's not like
Well,
it was
I,
invented in the past 10 years or so.
I think it was the
Yeah,
opening, which
yeah,
people don't
yeah,
realize, but it was the opening in our business
yeah.
for different colors,
Hmm.
different types of people.
Yeah.
But now they've taken it the next step where you've got short, small, fat, skinny. You've
You
got them
can't
all
say
different
fat.
types.
You can't
I
say
can't
fat.
say fat,
You can,
Like, you're not supposed to say gay anymore. You're supposed to say queer,
oh my God.
which when
That's
I
so
was a kid,
queer.
queer was derogatory,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're not supposed to say all that. But I think we reached a happy medium in the business.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe gone a little too far because
Mm,
the idea of a model is when they saw you on the runway, they wanted to be like
mm,
you. They wanted to, oh, if I do this and I do that and I buy that dress,
mm,
I'm going to be just like Marpessa,
mm.
just like her. And I thought that was the dream of advertising. I mean, that was
Yeah,
advertising. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
you put somebody in the clothes and everybody said, wow,
yeah,
I look just like her,
yeah.
just like that guy,
But
just like every.
that's another thing that I noticed when I get tagged in like old videos and stuff. Thank God everything is getting digitalized now. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
shows that I don't remember or that we don't have images from back in the day, and all these young kids are really interested and they're finding them and putting them out on social media. And you really see that, when you were on that runway, you would be interacting with, the clients that were on first row and, the photographers that were all around the runway, remember? They were not
Yeah,
just like in the pits, but they were all around the runway. And,
exactly.
you would be posing and, interacting with the clients and the editors and the buyers. And
Exactly.
I remember Cal Rudenstein, Cal.
From
I mean,
Bloomingdale's. Yeah.
when if I would see Cal, it was like,
Oh,
baby, and that doesn't happen. I mean, now the girls, they just walk straight and no emotion and just like just
yeah.
looking straight and walking back.
And all the front
It's
rows
become so sterile, so
the front
unapproachable,
rows,
really.
the front rows are all full with celebrities now.
Yeah,
And they're taking their picture more than they're taking pictures of the model.
yeah, yeah,
And they're interviewing them and not interviewing the
yeah.
models. So let me ask you, so you went to Elite
Mm,
in Paris and in New York.
yeah. No,
You with Ford.
I went to a little boutique agency of the same group in
Oh, you
Paris, Viva.
did.
Remember
Viva.
Viva
Sure, sure.
with Gerald
Which
and Christine?
oh, right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then you came,
They were great. They were really like, they really found my niche and
yeah,
you really got it going with the editorial and also commercial. Because I mean, back in the day, when I started doing runway, we weren't paid millions. It wasn't $10,000 a show. No way. It was like a tarif huit. They had those gradations of tariffs. And some of the designers wouldn't pay you until the next season. So, it's not like we were, yes, of course we make much more money than, a regular, a regular
yeah.
job. But, know,
And
I
then a lot,
wasn't making, I wasn't doing the catalogs. I wasn't doing the big commercial
right.
jobs because I was too exotic.
You were exotic.
Yeah. But then in Paris, especially Gerard and Christine, they really they found my niche, and from there it's then also took off in America.
And then how many times were you paid in clothes? Or they gave you clothes to wear so they could advertise for free. Oh,
Yeah.
here, take this sweater, take this skirt. You know,
Well, it was, as the dean, he was the
yeah.
first. I mean, he didn't have a
He
budget
dressed everybody
for,
fine.
but he was so generous. You could, he's like, no, take whatever you want. But, at some point it's like, okay, this is enough. Some of the girls, they were like, no, I'm taking a little bit more. I'm like, okay. But yeah, that is, with somebody like Dean, it's a win-win situation. I mean, I still have clothing from that era, and it's still perfect.
Class,
Yeah,
class. Now let
yeah.
me ask you. So then you came back to New York,
Mm.
and then you were with Ford, correct?
Yes, because I was with another. In the in the meantime, I went with another small agency, but that did not really work out, and I was I had met Abel
Ah,
for
I
a
remember
few
him.
times. And he was like, Marpessa, I would so much love to represent you. And I was like, really? I'm like, okay, I'm going. And it was a surprise because I never thought I would end up with Ford, having had my first experience with Mrs. Eileen
Uh,
when I first
we,
started
we've
out. And
all had,
that
we've,
wasn't very successful.
we've all had them. Well,
Yeah.
today is a special day because sitting next to me
Mhm.
is Abel Rapp.
No!
Yes.
Amore! Let me see your face.
Coming, I'm coming.
He's coming.
Hi, honey.
Come, baby.
How
Oh, my
Yeah.
sweetheart. What a love. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. How wonderful to see you, babe.
I'm here. I miss you, kid.
Thank you, Joey, for doing this. Oh,
If
oh
we
my gosh.
continue with the conversation, we'll cry later. But wonderful having you as a model. It was wonderful representing you. You were just
Oh, and you are such a joy and a delight and easy to work with. And you were always,
well. It's also
making us feel comfortable and such a gentleman and not all those hysterics that a lot of times go on in fashion, which can be fun, but as your agent, you want somebody who's with 2 feet on the ground like you were.
yeah, and also because you and a number of others were, besides the word professional, you knew
Hmm.
what yourself.
Oh my
You
gosh, I'm so touched that you're sitting there.
so
What a gift.
I
Baby, we have to see each other.
here.
Yeah?
What
Have a hug. I mean, what has been? 20 years at least.
Has it
at
been
least
20 years?
I think the last time I saw you, we were at
And
Daniela's for dinner.
Daniela, yes.
I'm seeing her. She's coming with Bianca on the 27th.
Now tell me, Daniela was
Daniela Guione,
yeah,
yeah. We were best buddies, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
She was with a fashion company, correct? Daniela?
No,
Oh,
she
she
was
was a
my
model.
model.
Oh, all right. No, I missed her.
Our
No,
model.
you did not. If you see her pictures, you know exactly who she was. She
Exactly.
was the first Italian supermodel.
I
Right?
recognize them when I see them.
Mm.
Later. So how are you? What's going on?
Good.
Well, it's a whole new era. It's a whole new phase in life, obviously. Like, I turned 60 this year, and
No.
we.
Wow.
Let's,
Yes, baby, we're all getting older. But thank God, because I mean, every day extra is a blessing, no?
You're a kid. Yeah,
uh,
she's
so when do you think you'll ever get here?
Well, now that I've seen you, you're seeing Daniela on the 27th?
27, yeah.
So between Christmas and New Year's.
That would be great. I'd love it. I would love it.
Well,
Yes.
work on this. I
When,
think it's a fabulous idea.
when was the last time you were here for Christmas? In the
For Christmas? Gosh, I wouldn't
huh?
remember. Probably in the 90s.
So tell me, Abel,
Yes.
what was the most exciting thing you booked?
No, actually not. A couple of years ago. Like 3, 4 years ago. Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Because I remember remember Susan Hauser?
They.
Susan Hauser, the makeup artist. So we were staying with her, and we went to see the windows at Barney's for Christmas. They always have the most fabulous. No, not Barney's, Bergdorf Goodman. Sorry. And they always have the most fabulous Christmas decorations. Yeah. But no, I would love. Oh man, I so want to see you. I'm so excited now. Let's do something. Let's do a big reunion.
Tell me, what was the most exciting booking you ever did with her?
It's a little hard question since we booked it for so much. I do have a question. Did you wind up doing the campaign for, of course, not Shamask?
Yes, Ronaldus. Yeah.
I thought so. I kept thinking, because they wanted you, because they were very hung up on your Dolce & Gabbana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That. But I can't remember if you did it or not.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Who was the photographer?
All I know is the stylist was Freddie Leba.
Of course. Yeah.
Freddie?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see him too. Oh, let's do a reunion. Oh, let's please do this before the new year.
Freddie. And do you ever see Franz on?
I actually know the craziest booking that you did.
What was that?
I remember.
Which one?
I had just flown back from New York to Paris, and then you called me and like, you have to come back. And I'm like, why? And it was Zach Carr.
Are you kidding?
Remember Zach, who used to be one of the designers at Calvin's, and he started his own collection. And he's like, no, Marpessa, I'm sorry, you need to come back. He's paying you a shitload of money and first class.
God, I don't even remember that.
You don't? I do. So like I had just like landed in Paris, and I had to fly back to New York the next day. That's, I think, when like the craziness of, flying up and down, and then there was this deal with the Concorde. Like that when you bought a business class round trip ticket, you got one-way upgrade in Concorde. And that's what you did. So I flew back to New York on the Concorde.
And if you bought the ticket...
What fabulous times did we live.
It was great. It was great.
I mean, the Concorde was like taking the bus in those days. You kids went back and forth, back and forth. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
It was crazy.
So so Abel had his own little spot at Ford's.
Yeah.
He had his desk, and he was in a corner.
Well, that was because Eileen pushed me off of the table.
And he had with just his girls.
Yeah.
These are your girls. I remember saying, these are your girls. You take care of them. Leave my girls alone. Like we were interfering with her, on her. All we were doing was maybe giving them a booking or giving them a go-see. And she would say, these are not your girls. They're my girls.
I don't know, Joey. I mean, Abel really took good care of us.
Oh, he did.
But
that's for sure. I remember those years with him.
Yeah.
It was fast.
And he had a special touch, I think, also with the European girls. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even, I remember even when we were still talking to Elite, and what's his name, who you mentioned before, who had Elite in Paris at that
Gerald Marie.
Gerald said to me.
No, Gerald Sen.
No, it was Gerald Marie.
It was Gerald Marie at Elite in Paris, but it was Gerald Sen at Viva.
He said to me while we were still working with Elite girls, working with me because of the way I handled them.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? How many months later was it? They took them all out.
Oh, really?
Listen, well, you know, if you come in, you remember Harry King, right?
Yes, of course.
Donahue. They throw a big models reunion in the spring.
I've seen that. I've seen that. Like every year, I see the pictures,
And
and you know that it's
Patty
going
Lee,
on, and of course, Abel is always and you know, and I was like, oh, I would so much love to be there, but you know, it's not
and
always
Abel
possible.
has to come this year too.
Hmm?
You
Well,
got to come to the party.
let's do that for 2025. I think that is, you know, I think that's a plan.
We're going to do a broadcast from there. You know,
Really?
to
Okay.
the kids that are at the party, and you should talk to us. I think we may have a budget of being able to fly a few people in. So
Oh, that would be amazing.
we have a
Well, I
big.
think you should actually, you know, that's sort of like a format that you know that should be bought, you know, and broadcast. Like, you know, it's so much better and exclusive than like you know a Victoria's Secret show that gets syndicated all over the world.
I'm sure, but they finally brought that back this year, I believe,
Yeah,
after so many years of not
yeah.
doing it. And so I hear also. So you were with Ford. You went back to Europe. You sort of started being a mother and taking care of your child, and now I hear you're coming back. You have an agent called Major New York
I have Nadia, who
with
you know,
them,
Nadia, who I've known for so many years,
and you're
obviously, and through Omar, actually.
through Omar.
Yeah.
And
It was, no, there was a certain point in my life that I was living in LA, and I was very much buddies with Omar, and you know, of course, I've always been a tomboy, so I had many more friends at you know amongst the male models than the female models. So I was always hanging out with the guys, and
you like those guys, huh?
well, you know, I'm a tomboy. You know, I'm not I'm a low maintenance woman, but you know, high energy.
You mean
You know,
you mean high maintenance, not low maintenance.
not high maintenance at all. I wish I wish I would I was a bit more.
You told
Back in the day, actually.
you told me that you lived for love.
Yeah.
You love living and you live for love.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
explain
I did.
to younger people what it is to be able to live for love and to love what you're doing, I would assume.
Well, of course, I love what I was doing, but if I would give advice to my younger self, I would say go for what you love to do, and not, you know, lose sight of that because you think you're in love with some
You
guy
mean you don't have an Italian boyfriend, a French boyfriend,
or
an American?
American boyfriend, whatever. I mean, you know, young guys, they're all the same, and especially when you're a model and you're hot, you know.
Oh my!
It's a lot of promises, but
You just burst my bubble, and I thought the whole
Mm.
show. But
Move into the frame, Abel. I want to see your mug.
I'm going
come on in
to,
here, look at him.
Oh.
and then I'm going to call you.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
let me see.
I mean, we've been, you know, we reach out
Right,
sometimes and we send messages.
right. But it's time to be close again.
Exactly, exactly. We need that hug, and
A
that, you
hug,
know.
and you don't know when you're going to get the next hug. You know, it's we're at a point where, you know, don't put off seeing somebody and say I'll see
Exactly,
you next week. You know,
exactly,
the key is when you want to see them, make it your business to see them
exactly.
because we don't have that many friends that are still around and
I
people that we.
know. I mean, every day, or that, not every day, but especially in the last few years. I mean, for me, the first period that was sort of, you know, I was too young. I guess we were all too young. Was during the AIDS epidemic, where we lost so many friends and so many, you know, amazing people in the arts and in fashion. And but you know, we were too young and, you know, very much busy and with our careers, and you know, it was not such a thing. You know, it wasn't really talked about, so you just went on. But now in the past 3 4 years, I mean, people are dropping like flies. It's like,
Yeah, well,
so yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We have to make it our business so that we get the little hug. And I'm putting December 27th into my agenda.
Good, good. And I'll,
Yeah.
yeah. Tell me about,
I'm going to move over.
Okay, sweetie.
Awesome.
Love you.
were,
Mwah.
were you a big Studio 54 fan?
Oh, yes. Yes.
You were,
The
right?
only tragedy was that once I got to New York, Studio 54 was in, you know,
Okay.
it was already past. They were almost closing down.
Oh,
Maybe I went 3 or 4 times, but it was not the Studio 54 that I had heard about and that I was like, you know, yeah.
well, I was so happy that Abel was able to come. You know,
Oh, I thank you so much. I mean, this is like such a gift. It's like the most beautiful surprise, and really, it touches me.
because
It really touches me a
I
lot.
told you I had been in touch with Abel.
Yeah,
And Matt, who you
yeah,
remember,
yeah, yeah,
went to see him recently,
yeah.
you know, Christopher Street. And I thought this would be great, you know, that you could say hello. You were always very special. Uh, I didn't know you that well. I saw you all the time.
Yeah.
We talked twice, but you're always special to me. And I
Oh, thank you, Joey.
tried to
You're
look.
always so daunting to me. I never, I might have this like, attitude like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you really were intimidating. I mean, you were the agent in New York. I mean, you were handling all the big names and, Christie and gosh, I mean, all of them. And I was just like, the little freak from Amsterdam that was,
That's not
Far from it.
one thing. You were one of them.
Oh,
You were right.
A model. You
You
were one of them.
special.
yeah. Well, thank you. Really, thank you.
So now that you have a New York agent,
Hmm.
Major New York,
Stay with me.
are you ready to work with Nadia? I'm sure she.
I mean, she's doing such an amazing job. She and Mohammed, they got me an amazing job in Mexico City 2 weeks ago.
Oh, fabulous!
Yeah, I did a commercial, and I mean, it was an experience. I mean, things have changed so much. Back in the day when you were on a commercial, there were maybe 20 people. Now there were like 100. But it was really exciting, and people were so nice and so welcoming and super professional. And no,
Well,
it's really nice. It's really nice.
that's
Who would have thought?
all the more you have to come to New York one day and meet
Yeah,
her and say hello to Nadia. Come into the agency,
yeah,
come into the office,
yeah.
and you could stay with Nadia. She just told me.
I
She could,
know, I know, I know,
I would say the same thing, but you know,
I know.
good in this in this day and age.
But what are you doing? I have a question for you, Joey. What are you doing? Because I mean, you were like
Well,
last I knew you were the co-owner of Ford's. What happened? What are you doing? Are you really retired now?
no, I'm not retired. I do a lot of expert stuff. I work with lawyers and I work with models on their contracts, you know,
Okay.
on illegal use of pictures,
Yeah.
different uses, what they cost, what they should earn,
Yeah.
you know. Do a lot of estimates and stuff like that for lawyers.
Yeah.
All the cases. So I handle a lot of cases.
Mhm.
And I work with like about 4 or 5 lawyers on different things. And now I'm working on this Fashion Workers Act, which uh, being was just passed in Albany, where they're trying to organize the fashion workers. Now, let me ask you a question though. When you were modeling, you were an independent contractor, correct? You had some contract that you were independent.
Yeah.
That you could accept the booking or tell us you didn't want to accept it. Am I correct?
Well, I guess in theory you could.
In theory, you could. I mean, if somebody, you didn't like somebody, you wouldn't work for them. And if you
definitely, and I still operate that way.
And you still operate that way.
Yeah.
So you're a free person to do what you wanted to do. Of course, you took suggestions from the agent.
Yeah.
That's why you hired them.
Yeah.
For them to advise you and to tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. But you had the ultimate choice of yes or no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
right. Is that different now?
No, it's the same.
Yeah.
Most all models are independent contractors, and that's the way it's been, and that's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
To have agents are the go-between. Managers and agents are the go-between between the model and the client.
Yeah.
The client dictates, the agent tells you what you should bring, and a lot of girls say, I'm not bringing anything. I'm not bringing hats. I'm not bringing, different color bras, or I'm not, I'm just coming with the basics. And that's the way it still is.
Okay.
All right.
No, it's it is very different now. I mean, now they want you to sign a contract that that commits you to an agent. I'd never signed a contract with anybody.
It's an independent contract, though.
Yeah.
Independent contractor. You never signed a contract there for once? Really?
Not that I recall.
I got to look it up.
Maybe you can. Oh, can you look something up? Can you look up my social security number if I still have one? NADIA was asking for it.
I don't remember if I saw any pictures of you that I feel you haven't gotten paid for.
I hope I don't owe any taxes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this is a fun conversation.
Well, I'm glad you took the time all the way from Amsterdam to be on our show. And I remember going to Amsterdam when I started working at Ford's.
Yeah.
And it was the only place you could smoke pot in a cafe. Not that I was a big pot smoker, because I wasn't, but I remember that. And I also remember something about Amsterdam that came to the United States so much later. They had a nightclub where everybody was on a bed.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, what was the name of that?
Where you would go with your party of 4 or 6.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
They bring out the tray with drinks, with food. While you were on this bed with curtains that you could
The supper club. The supper club.
Right, the supper.
The supper club. Well, I actually wasn't living in Amsterdam. I only moved back to Amsterdam like 3 years ago. 4 years ago when the pandemic started, and I wanted to be close to my dad. But no, the supper club, that was I've went a few times because one of my best friends, she was the director of it. But then yes, they moved to New York. They had one in New York, but that was a crazy place.
Oh, it was crazy.
And really crazy.
I used to love going there.
Yeah.
Well, Marpessa, thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was lots of fun. And really, I mean, to see Abel, woof, you filled my heart.
You're one of the ones I remember from our golden age, and I tell you, you were a forerunner because, as I say, you brought sexiness back to the runway.
Yeah.
And
well, I guess that sort of was, the start of the crossover between print girls and runway girls.
Exactly.
No?
And you were one of the first. And so I hope to see you soon.
So do I.
Thank
It would be my pleasure.
And have a good day. Oh, and
All
if I
right, baby.
Merry
Let's stay in touch.
New Year.
Mwah. Happy holidays. Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.